Well, hello everyone. You already got used to me a little bit, I hope. But yes, this is me. My name is Sylwia, and I'm a front-end developer and writer who also runs developer relations at Stagbridge. And if you want to be friends with me, find me on Twitter at Sylwia Vargas. There's a W, but it's still pronounced Sylvia. So for the next 20 minutes or so, I'll be talking to you about understanding your remote work style. This talk has been informed by real events, and I just want to share this with you as a type of personal retrospective. Well, long story short, at some age, comes a point where you sit down and you think, oh, this is madness. Something's got to change. And so, really, this talk is a story about that. So, just so you understand my context better, I will quickly tell you about some stepping stones of my career. So, first, in 2016, I was pursuing my PhD in sociology, and I was working both in teaching, but also doing research. And so I really liked that job because of the silence. Like it was just me, my books, and I, sometimes students. And also, I was pursuing my interests. But I hated this job because I had no control whatsoever over my schedule. This was in Poland, so I didn't have to think about health insurance and stuff because we just have that. I guess that the story would be different if I were in a different country. Then, well, along the academia work, I was also developing my own NGO, and then when in 2018 I moved to the US, I couldn't just move my academic work over, so I looked for a job, at an NGO sector because that's what I knew. And I worked at an international human rights organization. I loved it because of the people, like-minded people who really deeply care about things. We were connected by the common mission. But yeah, I mean, it's nice to have health insurance, huh? And so then I thought, I need to change something, because paying rent, being able to pay rent is also nice. And so I went to a coding bootcamp. And after that, I stayed on to teach coding. And when the pandemic hit, I was actually working on a contract with with a prestigious university, where I was teaching coding to computer science students there. And because of the nature of the contract, initially we had to be on Zoom all the time, meaning the instructors had to be constantly available. You could have your camera switched off, but if someone comes over, you have to switch it on. So for 8 hours, you were on a Zoom call. And I liked this job because of community and also because of teaching. There's no greater there's no greater joy of helping someone understand something difficult. I also taught not at the university, but also different city programs and so on and so forth. But I also hated this job because of the Zoom fatigue, and also it concluded in a really bad burnout. And so then in 2021, I mean, some other things were along the way. And then in 2021, I joined Stagbits, and I have been enjoying my remote work, to the fullest ever since. That's not really true because when I joined Stagbits, I was very burnt out, and I was about to move from New York to London, where I live now. So I took this new job, and new country as a fresh start. So I already, found a team that I really, loved, and in which I could be safe. But then that wasn't, that didn't fix everything. And so I took some time for understanding, how to make it work for myself remotely. I will talk about it in a bit more. And so, because before that, I also just want to say what Stagbits is. You already heard about it, but just to repeat, Stagbits is a lovely company that creates interactive code playgrounds that allow you to run Node.js inside your browser. So it's great for docs, for teaching, and everyday workflows. Yeah, let's go back to our story. So my story is going to be told through tips. So I'm gonna share with you how I got to being so extremely happy as I am right now. So first tip: ask yourself how you really feel about remote work. So it's difficult to grow. It's difficult to grow if you don't know how you really feel. You can't move forward. I will expand on this. So there's a lot of discussion about around remote work. I recognize, that it is not for everyone, but if you feel some type of discomfort, or if you really like it, remote work gives you an opportunity to really dive deep into the sources of that comfort or discomfort. For example, consider Michael Scott, who typically maintains relationships with the office employees through jokes. I imagine that under lockdown, Michael most probably would say something along the lines of remote work. That's like telling a bird to fly without wings. It just doesn't make sense. And if he was actually comfortable to be vulnerable with us, we might hear something like, I'm not sure how I feel about working remotely. I enjoy being around people and interacting with my colleagues in person, and I'm worried that I might miss out on that if I work remotely. I just love making people laugh and being the jokester, and I'm not sure how well that translates in a remote setting. And another thing, it feels lonely without going to work. So what we read here is that Michael is feeling lonely when he doesn't get the reassurance of a relationship through laughter from his colleagues. That he also doesn't know how to build relationships in ways that don't involve situational comedy. And finally, we learned that the office is his way of meeting people. Whenever you feel some kind of resistance or affinity, um, you know about remote work, I would invite you to take a closer look at it, a curious closer look, and ask yourself why. And in this way, you can see that the problem you're blaming the remote work for may actually be somewhere else. So for example, I am a person who works, as I said earlier, I don't really love improvisation. I like templates, I like worksheets. So, for example, a template for this kind of self-investigation could look like this. I do not like, or I like a remote work because, why? This aspect makes me feel, why? I feel this way because I believe that, why? I believe it to be this way because. So, this is kind of abstract. So let's make it into something concrete. For example, from a friend of mine, I do not like remote work because I tend to work much more. Why? I work much more because I don't disconnect after work. Why? I don't disconnect after work because I need to be productive and my work is at home, right? So, yeah, the work environment is at home. Why? I believe I need to be productive because I was taught that one's value is measured by their achievements. And of course, it makes sense that a person who sees their worth through productivity will be inclined to work a lot more in general. If their work happens to be also at their home, there will be even more, they will be even more enabled into workaholism. However, the problem here is not really remote work, but internalized capitalism. Internalized capitalism is a pop science term that one professor defined as an idea that our self-worth is directly linked to our productivity. You can't feel value in yourself for being alive, just for being a human being. You have to be a human doing to have any value. And then if we look into solutions, they could be, for example, foster awareness in your everyday life to see how you feel, find hobbies, nurture fulfilling relationships, create boundaries around acts of self-care. Remember that you are the main character in your life. Meaning, it's not the remote work that, for example, in this example, has to be the culprit. it might be generally how we understand work in general, right? And so maybe trying to just fix it, we are trying to fix the wrong problem. So then now let's get back to Michael Scott. So this quote, both of them actually don't come from Michael Scott, but from a friend of mine who chose Michael Scott as her alter ego. And this image is generated from by DALL-E. She actually reached out to me. So this talk was first published on Dev blogging platform as a comment. So first I wrote a very long comment to one post, and it so happened that the algorithms on Dev are great, and so a friend of mine reached out to me because what I was talking about in that comment really resonated with her. So we talked more about how she feels about remote work, and so the quote comes from her. But we dug a little bit deeper. So let's see how she followed that template. I do not like remote work because I feel lonely. Why? I feel lonely because I believe that adults make friends in professional settings. Why? I believe it to be this way because I was taught that hobbies are for children and adults with hobbies are embarrassing. So, I mean, of course, if you feel guilty for resting, relaxing, or devoting time to hobbies, that's also internalized capitalism, right? Once she understood that, she doesn't have to view herself as a project that needs, to meet quarterly KPIs, she joined a community garden and made, a lot of new non-professional friendships that were actually really fulfilling because, that's lots of different people from all walks of life. Actually, as a result, ironically, her performance at work also improved. So, it's for many people, if not for most, it's just really difficult to show up to work if you're really unhappy with your life. And if you view yourself, as, I don't know, another project. So here again, the problem wasn't remote work. The problem was that my friend, she wasn't exposed to making friends as an adult beyond the professional setting. And let's take last example. Also from a friend. I do not like remote work because I procrastinate more. Why? I procrastinate more because I'm lazy. Meh. Internalized capitalism. Actually, no one is really lazy. There may be some people, but from my experience, if you create, nurturing environment, or if those folks are placed in an environment that nurtures their curiosity, all of a sudden they are really driven, right? So let's rephrase that. I procrastinate more because I don't feel motivated to do it. Why? I don't feel motivated to do it because I just don't see how what I'm doing is bringing any value to my life or the world. Why? I don't see it because I honestly don't care about fintech, VC, stocks, especially when the planet is on fire. So you see, like, this kind of realizations come of, like, sometimes at some crisis moments, but sometimes only when you're just sitting, with yourself. At work, this friend was always kept busy and so stressed about the goals and KPIs and OKRs and all of those acronyms. So there was really no space for her to think about what she was doing. She would also be, complimented by her bosses for, I don't know, stuff that doesn't really that wasn't really meaningful for her performance, or for formatting a file. So once she was not around those stressors, once she was not reminded all the time that she's lagging behind, or was not satisfied with small compliments, she could actually see that what she was doing was not aligning with her values. So again, like, the problem wasn't really the remote work, the problem was somewhere else, but it's so much more difficult and stressful to actually look at where the problem is. And so it's so easy, so convenient to just say, remote work, not for me. So that's the values thing. That brings us to the second tip, which is choose a team that aligns with your values and personality. Again, difficult to grow in a team that doesn't support your self-discovery, both professional and personal, and that manages your every step. Like, you can't innovate, you can't be creative. That being said, in this economy, I would say, if you can, choose a team that aligns with your values and personality, and if you can't, at least understand your values. So you heard about my career, and you heard that I already put a lot of thought into what kind of team I want before joining Stagbits. But let me walk you through this. I actually identified the points of my distress, and those were being micromanaged, Zoom calls, real-time collaboration, because I'm not a talker, even though now I'm talking, but my contributions are usually quiet. I mean, I prefer writing because in the real-time collaboration, I just can't focus, I can't hear myself. And not having control over my schedule. And that meant that I needed a team that valued autonomy. I needed a team that was distributed. I needed a team that valued async collaboration, and where schedule was flexible and we had unlimited time off. That is very important to me because I have a lot of very niche hobbies and interests. And so, this is Stagbits. We have 26 team members. We are in 14 countries, in 3 continents. Our schedule is flexible. As you see, we have unlimited time off, 10 personal holidays, 2-week winter break, company-wide mental health days, and an offsite, in-person offsite. The winter break and the mental health days are really important because it's different if you are just going, away for holidays, and it's different when the whole company is away. There are no notifications. You don't feel like you're missing out on something. So that's super important. And then a typical week at Stagbits, of course, it depends on what role you have, but this is the bare minimum. You would have, you would start Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I mean, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, you would have like half-hour meetings that are just like team building. So we talk about our weekend on Monday, and we give a shout out to someone on Friday. And then on Tuesdays, we typically shouldn't have meetings. Of course, sometimes there are weeks that happen, that happens. And then on Thursdays, we would have a retrospective for all hands. Then, of course, within your team, you would have some syncs or whatever. But my point is that there aren't, like, meetings are not the default. Because of that, I was able to do a lot of soul searching and investigation, which I will tell you about in a second. And that landed me in, this is my week. I wake up when I'm rested. On Mondays, I usually do research and I study. Of course, I also work, but this week is more about like what I do because my schedule allows for that, right? So this is not related to work. On Tuesday, I do Swedish and therapy. On Wednesday, I play Scrabble with seniors in a local library in the morning for, a few hours. And then on Thursday, I learn Spanish. On Fridays, I go to museums, and also on the weekends, but that's not important. So now, this sounds really cool. And at some point, there's always someone who says, wow, how do you folks get anything done with so much free time? And the point is that we actually love what we do, so why not do it? We are curious. And, I myself, I'm really excited because I am treated like an adult at work, and no one is, overseeing, like, micromanaging me. I am responsible for my schedule, but also for my output. And so because of that, I just feel like my energy is allocated in the right places, and my team trusts me in that my decisions are okay. We do ship at incredible speed, actually, because people are, typically motivated, or at least like very curious about what they are doing. And so, for example, in the past half hour, we had 2 massive launches and also a conference, right? So, of course, there are times when it's busy and it's not all roses, and I work a lot. But even when I work a lot, I don't go to bed stressed as hell. I still have time to, do things that make me a whole human. So, as I said, it hasn't been like that from the beginning. The flexible schedule was there, but I had to do a lot of soul searching, and I once I joined Stackblitz, and so once I had the team that aligned with my values, I could finally think about what I want my day to day to look like. And so, again, as I said before, I'm a very process oriented person. So I took out a notebook and I journaled a lot. We are all socialized to believe certain things to be true that sometimes not necessarily are. So I wrote down all my beliefs about work, like for example, um, our work day makes sense and results in productivity. Meetings are necessary. I need performance review to know how I'm doing, and then and so on and so forth. So since I no longer worked at an office, I allowed myself to go wild with testing what works for me. And so the first few weeks or months, I think months, I was just like trying different settings, and I would ask myself a question and then try different things. So for example, do I like to work in the morning, in the afternoon, or at night? Or maybe it depends on the task. Do I like to work in long stretches or short intervals? Do I like strict schedule? Is it about how long I work or what type of work I do? What kind of connection do I need with my colleagues to feel happy and safe? Do I need an office space, or like at home, or do I just want to keep working from my sofa? If not measured by time, what is my definition of an honest day's work? And then, uh, sorry, and then what non-work activities make me better at my work? And so this one turned out to be crucial because oftentimes we just focus so much on just doing our tasks that we lose the big picture. So once I started thinking about the things that I like to do, for example writing, and I started you know spending more time on that, that actually not only made me happier and also resulted in new friends, but also actually made me much better at my work. And so find hobbies and also go back to the previous ones. So that was quite a revolution. Tip 3, understand how you rest. It is in the times of hustle culture, we no longer know how to rest. So in 2020, I was so restless that even on the weekend, I had exactly zero energy for reading or learning or museums or even sleep. I would just literally mindlessly scroll, right? So here's a saying that I saw a few weeks ago somewhere, and it became my mantra, actually, and I wanted to share it with you. Make peace of mind your goal and organize your life around that. It's easy to say, but I've been trying to implement it, and it's a good reminder for me to just of what's important. And so I want to share with you how I designed my rest, because now I actually, no matter what happens, I sleep 8 to 10 hours, and just like I can tell you, like, this is best. So first, I looked at what prevents me from really disconnecting. So as a result, I set up clear work hours. Sometimes they are not the same. I don't work from 10 to, let's say, 6 every day, because as I said, I am a busy person with my life. No, but I always work, I always have clear work times for myself, right? So that it doesn't matter if I start working and then I do a museum break and then I work more. It's more about just like having clarity when work happens and when it doesn't happen, so that I can show up to my activities and my friends and my family. Then booked lunchtime. Even though we almost have no meetings, I have my lunchtime booked more as a reminder for myself to step away and eat something healthy. We had quite a few conversations in our team about social rules with regards to pinging someone when they're away, or like waiting with decisions when someone is away. so that you don't feel that you always have to check, Slack, because otherwise you're gonna, miss out on something. I don't work in the morning. I have coffee and that's it. And, I don't check Slack or whatever. I'm still working on guarding my work hours, because sometimes I am, at the museum, but I'm still thinking about, work. And I still have Slack on my phone. This is something I'm getting to. And then I looked at communication, what drains my energy. And so you see that the best communication methods for me are Slack, no notifications, and email. But Zoom or Slack with notifications is just really I need a nap afterwards. Because of that, I set up a no meeting day, which we still have, but now I'm actually serious about it. I schedule Zoom calls later in the day, because since they're gonna tire me anyway, maybe I can have my productive time, on something else. I switch off all notifications everywhere, and I have healthy expectations about response time, so that I don't put an urge on myself to respond immediately, because the truth is that most people actually are fine waiting some time, or even a few days. And then resting. Once I figured that out, I could rest. So I made sure to sleep 8 hours per night. And how do I do that? Not by going to bed early, but by scheduling no meetings before 11. I sometimes start work earlier if I wake up earlier, but I just don't. I want to make sure that, I don't wake up at 6 a.m. stressed that, I have a meeting at 8 a.m. and I'm going to be tired. I don't know if you sometimes have it this way, but yeah, that's how I feel. I'm spending time with nature. I'm spending time on hobbies and with friends. And those were kind of restful activities that really result in me being just really happier. I'm still, struggling with booking time off ahead of time. We are so much in the now all the time that we kind of forget that we also should take time off. And I'm still checking Twitter after 7 p.m. and then I'm angry or something. So I'm trying to, yeah, we'll see where we get with this one. So the last tip, connecting to resting, is be comfortable. Comfort, means different for every person. So sometimes it is just it's good to ask yourself, when do you feel comfortable in your, when your body feels comfortable. So sometimes, for example, it can be when you just sat down on the sofa, or you put, very comfy pants, maybe, some kind of shower in the really just the right temperature. It means something different for every single person. For me, comfort, for example, means, a second, soft pants. And I'm wearing them right now. Literally every single time I'm putting them on, I'm like, comfort. Mint tea, which reminds me of my grandma. And I make sure to always think about my grandma when I'm drinking mint tea. Office light. Nope. That is exactly the opposite of comfort, and that's good to know. And then home. Quiet and predictable. I love it. But the thing is that once you know what contributes to your comfort, before you do those things, say it, to yourself, that you are doing that for yourself as a gift, of comfort to yourself. And so thank you for having me here. If if you're a cozy core person, reach out to me. Here are my socials. And also, I would really love to hear either questions that you have for me, or maybe your tips if you would like to share with me. Thank you.